Hey, Seth David here from the world famous Nerd Enterprises Incorporated, bringing to you part 4 of Extreme Bookmarking, how to manage all of those apps. This time we're going to take a close look at Airtable and how you can set something up in Airtable that's geometric, meaning everything's kept in one place, no matter what its use case is, no matter who you're using it with, how you're using it. And then we're going to use Airtable's features like views and filters and groupings in order to chisel the information down to just what we need, for example, for a particular client, and so on. So let's take a look at my screen and I'll show you how we get this set up. So here's my sample Airtable bookmarking system. Now the first column here, each thing in the first column should be unique. This is a bad example of that. It's because they're both related to all clients, and they're both QuickBooks Online bookmarks in terms of the app or place. And I've configured this by formula to combine these two things. In this case, it's the bookmark name here that really distinguishes which is which. So that's something I'd have to work on in the title. Most of them shouldn't break that rule. So let's take a look and see how to set this up. And you can set this up however you want, but like I said, the general rule is each item in this column should be unique. It should never be repeated. All right, so we've got a bunch of single select items, and this is how I have gone ahead and created dimensions on which to organize things. So first we have the client or entity, right? So client X, client Y, this is for all clients. This is a client called Seth David's Nerd Enterprises, Inc. I can click to alphabetize this to put it in a little more logical order, and I'll click Save. And by the way, whatever order you have these in is how it's going to sort if you happen to be sorting by this. So you can put it in an order other than alphabetical if there's a logic that you'd want to use instead of alphabetical, and that's how it will sort if you sort the column by that list. We also created a workspace, also a single select column type, right? You have lots of different column types you can choose from here. And again, with 3 choices, firm, clients, and personal, it's sort of a bigger picture, bird's eye view of how I might want to organize things. And then there's the app or the place or location, right? So this is pretty straightforward. It's Google Drive, it's QuickBooks Online bookmarks. I distinguish bookmarks from, links to an actual QuickBooks Online company. Why? Because I felt it would be useful to do that. You don't have to do that. You can do it however you like. And then I did, as you saw, create this column that's just a generic text column for the, to give certain bookmarks a name, such as in these cases where I want to distinguish, these are links directly to generic reports in QuickBooks Online. I could use these for any company I might be logged into, and these are reports I like to run frequently. So then, of course, you have the URL itself. That's straightforward. The notes column is a long text column. I always enable rich text formatting because why not? It doesn't cost me any extra, and this way I can format the notes that I put in here. And if it ever applied for any reason, I could put attachments in here. I could drop images in here, and then there's different kinds of like gallery views you could use to make this more visual, right? And then anytime you create a new table in Airtable, it's going to give you the status column, which I just leave in there because I often do at times find uses for it. So that's the lay of the land in terms of how this is structured and set up. The trick is then how to chisel it down to what you want to see. So earlier in the first part of this series, I showed you how I'd set up the Mighty Networks view that's going to include just the client's links for all the Mighty Networks locations, right? This is the everything view, which is there's no filters, no groups. This is literally just absolutely everything. Over here, I created a view called My Firm, right? And this is filtered for all the ones that are marked as My Firm under client or entity. Okay, I could have probably accomplished the same thing by just filtering it for the workspace called Firm. Okay, here's client X. Okay, so these are all the client X links. And I can hide this to give myself a little bit more sort of real estate, so to speak, here. Okay, in this view, I have the URL come first. You can change the order of these from one view to the next because in the everything view, I might want to see some of the more visual stuff first, right? But then once I go over to client X, really once I'm here, the main thing is it's all about getting into their Google Drive folder, being able to click over quickly. So once I'm in any of these views that I've defined, I probably want to keep them there. How did I create these sections, by the way? Down here, and let me move Bubble Up out of the way for a minute. Down here, you'll click New Section, and then it'll add a new section up here. You'll name it, and it's very easy to drag and drop things, from one section to the other And Airtable is very friendly and forgiving about the whole drag and drop part of that, right? And then so here's a section I created just generally for apps and places, so like all the company websites, right? Google Drive, right? And how to create these is very, very straightforward. Here's all the QBO bookmarks, right? So this is filtered for just that, the ones that say QBO bookmarks, right? And so I've got some all clients ones. And over here, that title is probably going to become important, the bookmark name. So let's move that to the beginning in this view. So when I change the order in this view, it only affects this view, right? So let's move that here so I can see very clearly. Let's put it before even the client or entity, because in this view, I want to see very clearly what are these bookmarks taking me to, right? That is basically everything that you probably need to know to get you started. And this is how I've chosen to organize this stuff in terms of these different kinds of dimensions on which I want to organize or group things, right? The other thing you can do is in a particular view, if you wanted to, the same place I went to, it's called hide fields, but there's more that you can do. You already saw how I can go in here and reorder them. I can also click and drag the columns, but I find the screen a much easier way to do it. You can also hide things, like if I don't need the notes for this, I can turn that off right here, right? I don't need the status. Maybe in a view I don't need the bookmark name, or maybe in this view I should have that like right up front, right? So bringing that front and center. Then I see it's not being used. Okay, turn it off. So Airtable makes it very versatile in terms of how I can chisel down a view to exactly what I want to see, nothing more, nothing less, and putting things in the right order based on what I want to see and how I want to look at things. So hopefully you can get some ideas here of your own, and nothing would make me happier than if one of you reached out to me and said, hey, I watched your video on extreme bookmarking, I like the Airtable system, and I'm using that now, and here's what I did. Here's how I organize this stuff. Because, again, this is just a suggestion to get you started, to spark some ideas. I hope that you'll take this 10 degrees further and make it your own and make it into something that takes away the stress for you of having to worry about all these apps that you have to track, because you've got a nice, easy system that makes it easy for you to organize, categorize, and easily reference all the information you need when you need it without having to think about it for more than 30 seconds. So again, I hope you learned something here, had some fun along the way, and stay tuned because we've got another part coming up next. We're going to look at something that I love to use for this purpose, for this use case. It's called the brain. So look for the next video in the series on part 5 on the brain and how to use the brain for extreme bookmarking and how to manage all of these apps.